Hi everybody, in this episode, I don't even know where we are. Hi everybody, in this episode we're here, Jonathan G here in La Crescenta. La Crescenta?
Yeah, La Crescenta, Montrose, La Cunada, somewhere around here. JPL.
That's where we are at.
Cool. Sorry, the bugs.
Oh, that's okay. Let's try this again. Part 3 of... First time I forget the audio's not working. Second time we have overload on audio. Let's try a third time this time, Jonathan.
Of course, third time's the charm, right?
Thank you, Jonathan, for inviting me a third time to come out.
Yeah, let's go look.
He's a pro at this, everybody.
I'll show you one of my trees that I'm developing. I can't take credit for it, but my teacher Julian, he looked and saw that this tree was kind of bare on one side, and whenever you have a tree that's bare and no branches on one side, it can be a good candidate for a raft. So this is a purple European beech that I got from someone over on the East Coast, and just want to experiment and try different deciduous trees, see what works here. And I heard that these are a little bit more hardier than the typical beech, and so far over the last year or two, it's done all right in my yard. So just kind of progressing it forward, and had this designed out, and soon I will kind of try to ground layer it and put it in this box.
That's a really cool custom made box.
Yeah, so I'll have to move some of the panels around, but it'll basically kind of sit like this, and then yeah, hopefully within a year or two. Beeches are pretty slow to ground layer or to layer in general, so I'm anticipating at least 2 years inside this box, and hopefully it'll grow some really nice roots. And then I have the task to try to figure out where in the world am I going to find a pot for this.
Custom made pot. You got to get someone to custom make one for you. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, just more money out the door, but it should be fun. Over here you'll see this is kind of like my lower court area, or my lower benches, and here I have most of my conifers here because it gets more sun, a lot of sun throughout the day. And this is a Utah juniper that I got recently from Tom. I just repotted it this past January, and what I like about Utahs are they're really tough. So a beginner like me can't kill it really as hard or as easily. And so Utahs don't have a lot of termite damage. They won't burn easily in, you know, kind of those hot summer months that we have here. And this one, I think it's a female because I saw some berries on it when I first got it, and it has pretty tight foliage for, you know, what we would consider a native juniper to this area over here on the west coast. But the branches aren't exactly in the right place, so I'm looking to probably graft it next year and do some approach grafts and try to change the design a little bit.
That's really cool. Why is the reason for no termite damage? That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, from what I've heard, it's just really hard wood, and I think termites would rather, you know, attack something that's a little bit softer, a little bit easier to chew for them. So it's just kind of an observation that I've heard from various people who have collected over the years, who have collected Californias, who collected Sierras, Rockies, Utahs, you know, all the different native trees. They see those termite holes and termite damage in, you know, certain species more than others. So
that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. This next one is a deciduous project that I'm working on. I got it from Ed Clark at Bonsai-a-thon a few years ago. It's a root over rock, and it was styled out a few years ago really nicely. And then the squirrels got to it and they attacked it, and they basically ate just about every branch, which was really disheartening. But it grew back out. It didn't die. And basically, I started building this tree with one branch and thread grafting. So there's a branch over here. We whipped it around over here last year or 2 years ago. It took really well. And so since it took really well, we cut off the back part and we decided, okay, let's just whip this back around and have it come out here. So a few months ago, we did the thread graft, and hopefully, you know, all these buds here will start popping open, and built the second branch.
So wait a minute, you're just saying you used one branch to put in 2 more branches in this trunk?
Yes.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And most likely we'll do it again to build the third branch, and basically build this whole tree out of one branch.
And that branch is snipped off because it's been removed from the back, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So over here in the back area,
so
it was over here, kind of whipped it around, and yeah. So it's really cool. You can do with deciduous trees. You can basically Frankenstein and literally make a tree all out of itself.
That's some advantage of having a deciduous tree versus a conifer. I
Yeah.
mean, you can do some really drastic changes like that.
Yeah, exactly. And especially with deciduous trees, like if you can help it, you want to have the same genetics, right? You don't necessarily want to graft something else onto it. You'll have maybe different foliage color. You might have different shape. This way, it's all
the same.
All the same. It just will take, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 years till it becomes finished. This next one is one of my favorite trees. It's I got it from Gary Ishii. Actually, it was his father's, Mas Ishii, and it was part of the 1975 California Bonsai Society magazine or book, and it was in there. And over the years, I kind of I was really inspired by this tree, and so I talked with Gary for a little bit, and eventually I was able to get it from him. And they had a Bjorn workshop a few years ago, so I actually brought it back after I got it from him, and kind of asked the mom and Bjorn along with me, like, is it okay for us to restyle it and have maybe a little bit different front? And he said, yeah, sure, you know, do whatever you want. Like, and so I just did my best to be respectful of the original artist and the intention, and kind of try to update it to, you know, however it's grown since that original time, to show it at its best. So I'm growing out and developing out some of the foreground, some of these branches into the foreground, but the rest working on the refinement, and it's already on its 3rd flush right now, so
awesome.
It's doing really well.
Awesome.
Yeah. This next one, it's a Pygmy Cypress. I like to experiment with different things and different species.
This is not a juniper. It looks like a juniper. Look at that.
Yeah. It totally looks. The foliage totally looks like a juniper, but it's actually a Pygmy Cypress. It's one of those mutated cypress, one that you get from Bob Scheiman. He has a certain spot that I guess he collects it all from, and yeah, it's been a really fun tree. I've had it for a little over a year now, and it did really well in my yard, to the point where, you know, I was ready to style it. So we styled it. I really like the coastal multiple apex feel, like whenever you go up, you know, Pacific Coast Highway and you see all the different trees, the Monterey cypress and stuff, and so it just was really inspired by that.
How long have you had that?
This one, about a year.
Okay.
About a year or so.
Just wondering, because these are coastal trees. If I remember, they're right on the coastline.
Yeah.
A really sandy, really shallow root ball.
Yeah.
So I want one. I just don't have the guts to, you know, double down on one yet.
Yeah.
But it's nice to hear someone else, like, you know, very similar climate as I do, that is actually experimenting. It's kind of cool to hear that.
You'll never know unless you try it out, or if you know someone who's tried it out. So I was asking a lot of people.
There are not many people in Southern Cal that actually has it. A lot of people are Northern Cal. I know
Yeah.
a lot of Northern Cal people have one. Not many Southern Cal, and some people do really well, and some just kind of crap out. So it's kind of...
Yeah. I went to the Daiichi show a couple years back, and I saw a really cool tree. I wasn't exactly sure what it was. Eventually, I kind of asked some people. They're like, "Oh yeah, it's a Monterey cypress," and I was like, "Whoa, like that's really cool." And I guess he's had it for a really long time. He had collected it, so I was like, "Oh, okay. Then maybe these cypresses do okay down here." And so just knowing Bob and, you know, how many Pygmy cypress he collects, I was like, got one you're willing to part with that's not too expensive that I can experiment with? And I was like, yeah, sure. You know, I think I have something for you.
That's
so,
awesome.
Yeah. This next one is a Sierra Juniper, and it was actually kind of like in a cascade form. It was basically 180 degrees going downward, and kind of thought about it and flipped it up, right side up a couple years back on the repot to make it kind of like a Tianjin style.
Awesome. The blue color is so striking.
Yeah. So this one is really, really blue. I have another Sierra that I'll show you. They're totally different kind of foliage color. That one's a little bit more green with yellow tips, and this one is, you know, basically blue.
Awesome.
Yeah. Over here, I have some Rockies that I'm experimenting with. You know, everyone knows Rockies to be a really fun tree to work with. Wasn't sure how to do in my yard, but these seem to do just fine. I've had these for over a year now as well, and I've done a repot on this one, and it's really cool to see just the diversity in the foliage. You see this one's kind of long and lanky and weepy, not exactly the best looking foliage. And then this one over here is another tree that I got. It's really nice and tight foliage.
And it's the same, it's a
Rocky
Mountain, sorry.
Yeah, it's the same. They're the exact same species. You can actually, you know, as you kind of look at it day after day as you're watering, yeah, you can tell the differences between all the different native foliage. And my hope is to use this as kind of a mother grafting stock and then graft this finer foliage onto the Rockies and see how that does.
I'm surprised you don't need, like, you know, what is it, cold, like a chill hours.
Yeah, a lot of people said that, at least for me in my area. I live about 1,800, 2,000 feet above sea level, and it gets noticeably cooler. I'll look at my phone, it'll say that my city is, let's say 50 degrees, if you will. But then have an outdoor temperature gauge, it'll actually say something like 40 degrees. So there could be even like a 10-degree difference from where I am versus wherever the thermometer is.
You're talking about your microclimate that you have here.
On my phone even, let alone, like, you know, if you're in Pasadena, it might say 60 degrees there, but over here in my yard it says 40 degrees. So
you might get more chill hours than you
might
expect.
get more chill hours. It's gone down to high 20s before.
Oh, wow,
here.
really?
So I've seen 28 on my thermometer. I've seen low 30s. Usually it'll get lower than 40 here in the winter. And even last year, I think it actually snowed for like 10 minutes.
Oh, that's cool.
So it was pretty fun. Here's the next one. It's my big elm that I had. I got it a few years back at a sale, and at first I thought it was a root over rock, but then looking at it a little bit more closely, it's not root over rock. The original artist basically put the rocks and found rocks that worked well with this kind of exposed root structure.
If you look at the roots, I thought, you know, when I first walked in, I'm like, that's a really cool root over rock. But you can see they're really small gaps. So it was fitted really well. Whoever did the fitment on this one.
Yeah. I wonder if that person actually carved it a little bit, shaped it a little bit. You can see the gaps because I repotted it a few years ago and didn't do it nearly as well as the original artist. But I'll have a second shot at it soon again and try to get it in tighter. But it's really cool. It's really fun. And then
it's a really good looking tree. I mean, the structure's all there. Just bringing it back.
It wasn't exactly that healthy originally, so just let it grow over the last couple of years. And starting this year, started really seeing all the green come back. Starting to see a lot of elongating shoots. So it's starting to regain its strength, and then hopefully I'll push it back soon and then kind of build the 3D pad of making it a little bit thicker on each one of these branches.
That's awesome.
Yeah. This next one is a black pine. It's my biggest black pine, and I got it from Mr. Barrett a few years back, and he didn't necessarily grow it from seed, but he grew it from a seedling in, I think, the 1970s. So it's been a bonsai for a little while now. And when we had talked about it, he said, okay, if you want the tree, you also got to get this pot with it, because originally it was growing in a wood box to get healthy again.
So he actually picked out the pot before the tree was immature.
Yeah. He picked out the pot. You know, as you know, like it grew bigger. But then he had a pot he really wanted it to be potted in. So I said, sure, absolutely want to respect your wishes on that. And so I was like, okay, I'll get the pot too. And so the last 2 years ago, got it repotted into the pot, took a picture, and I gave it to him recently and said, I did what you asked.
Nice, awesome.
Yeah. This next one is a Pinjan Pine that I got from Tom as well, and it's working on 4 years out of collection, and it's a high mountain, high elevation pine, but it seems to do well here. And I get that chill, you know, a little bit the coolness in the winter, and we repotted it in January. Wasn't sure how it was doing because 2-3 months there it didn't do a thing, but then the last few months it started back budding. You can see the little buds, and then boom, over the last month and a half or so it started to grow out really nicely.
Look how healthy these candles are, man. Seriously, for a high altitude or high elevation tree that needs a lot of chill hours or resting time, that's awesome.
Yeah, so hopefully maybe in the fall or maybe the year after, I'll begin styling it out and figuring out like what's the best way to make it look good. It's got a lot of really cool old deadwood on it.
What's the reason for the cage around it?
Oh, the cage. Forgot to take this off. Oh, the cage is a little bit more for myself than anything else. I have a lot of squirrels who like to do a lot of damage, so my thought was, oh, maybe I'll put this cage around it. You know, they'll know, hey, please don't touch this one. Don't touch it. So far, so good. They haven't touched it, but I don't know how much, you know, good this is totally doing, because, you know, they can climb on anything. They can figure out how to get around anything. So, yeah, that's the original intent. This one's a Coastline Oak. I really like oak trees. As we know, here in California, we have a lot of really cool oak trees. And one of the things I've always wanted to do with my collection is have trees that are native to my yard too. So you'll see kind of like along my kind of hillside here and stuff, there's a lot of Coastline Oak trees. There's a big one back there. There's a few big ones over there. They're lined here against the property line. And one of the things I always like to do or show friends who might not necessarily be interested in bonsai is, look, you can take, you know, a big tree like that and you can stunt it once you put it into a container, and you can keep it miniature. So they're like the mini trees of the trees that are here in the yard.
That's awesome.
Yeah. This one is my biggest tree. Didn't really intend to get this big of a tree, but there was a touch leafer workshop, and wanted to have something there that was, you know, a collected tree to work on within. So I asked Tom, I was like, what's the smallest Utah juniper that you have that has some foliage that's ready for styling that I could possibly carry by myself? And it was this one or this other one that didn't have as many branches or as much foliage. And so
how funny. Stand right next to this. Is okay. When you say Tom for small, this is small for Tom. If you've never been to Tom's house and look
is
at
a shohin for
yes,
Tom,
yes.
basically.
So if you haven't been to Tom's house, go watch the video about Tom's video. It's almost a year now that I did that video. But honestly, this is small. I mean, when you say small to Tom, you gotta, I think you have to put like exact measure, like 12 inches.
Yes.
And don't say diameter, because he'll probably give you a trunk. I mean, that's...
Yeah, he'll give you a collected trunk with like a 10-foot tall tree. I remember going to his house the first time, and I was like trying to look for his house, and his house at the time had this huge, like, I don't know, like 20-foot, what felt like 20-foot tall collected tree in front of his house. I was like, okay, that has to be the house. But yeah, we worked on this. We worked on the dead. We worked on really heavy bending because most of the main branches were pointing straight up or to the side.
And you see that one's right there in front of the camera. And then he has another serious, wrapped with raffia. So you're really doing some heavy bending here.
Yeah, so some of them are wrapped, some of them are spliced where you basically take out the dead wood to have less girth, and then put some stints, put some heavy wire stints on it too, and then raffia over that, and it creates basically a brace for you to be able to do like a 90 degree, 100 degree bend from basically upright going and bending it down. So I learned a lot from Ted that day. My hands were so tired, like they were like
Todd,
I'm sorry, Todd. Right, and it was like, oh, like I can't move because
cramps.
We did so much wiring that day, but it was fun. I learned a lot.
Awesome. And this is your lower court. So the lower court's all deciduous. Sorry, all conifers.
Yeah.
Things that need full sun. That's down here.
Yep.
And then you have this upper court. We call this upper court.
Sure. And this upper court up here is mostly deciduous. I have some conifers because just kind of like with all the different plants around, like I know which areas have a lot of sun and which areas have a lot of shade or some dapple shade for all the deciduous. So in the spring, I'll bring my trees out to kind of this sunnier area for all the trees, deciduous trees, to kind of wake up. And then when we get toward the summer months like now, I'm probably about to move everything back to that back area that has all the shade structures and stuff.
So the back area is right there. The far back area that gets most shade in the summertime, and of course,
yeah,
trying to beat that summer or summer.
Yeah, try to beat the summer heat. Like, the last thing you want is to have leaf burn on all the deciduous trees, right? And so just protecting it and making sure that they stay healthy and basically alive.
That's awesome.
And to be healthier and happier. But this one.
So how do you get into bonsai? Really quick. I mean,
Sure.
we're in like middle into this video. How do you get into bonsai? Really quick.
Yeah. In 2015, I took a business trip up to Seattle, and was looking for something to do on an off day. And lo and behold, next to my hotel was the Pacific Bonsai Museum. So I went there, had some fun, really inspired by the trees there. But then I was looking at the tags, and I noticed that a lot of the trees in that collection came from Southern California. The Shigmias, the Benokis, the John Nakas of the world. And I was like, okay, well, I figure there's some people in LA who might be doing bonsai. I don't know. So I Googled that. Little by little, I learned that Southern California was basically one of the birthplaces of an American bonsai. Then got a chance to meet Ted, the Huntington, started volunteering, did his bonsai gakko class, and kind of the rest is history from that point.
Awesome. So you're in it really recently then, a couple like 5-6 years.
So of that 5-6 years, probably the last 2 years have I actually been more
real serious
about it and really trying to get educated about different trees and how to keep them healthy and what to do.
Awesome.
I'll show you this tree. This is one of my other conifers that I have. It's Sierra Juniper. That was actually right side up, and just kind of thinking about it over the days and months and years that I had it, I thought it would actually be better down. So Julia and I, he taught me how to repot something like this and do kind of a heavy angle change. And so we made it from kind of an informal upright to a cascade. And so far so good. Since January, it's starting to really regain strength. Some new back butting has happened, and it's really fun to do all these things and learn all the different things that you can do and all the options that you can have on trees, as long as there's someone there to be able to teach you the various techniques on how to do it. And this foliage is very different than the other one. This one's more green, and it'll have like these yellow tips.
It's funny. So every time you have a Sierra Juniper, it looks like you're like changing the angle. So I could put money on this. If someone gives Jonathan a Sierra Juniper, he's going to change the angle of it automatically. So,
yeah, just the two trees that I happen to have. It kind of worked out that way. But yeah.
Let's check out some of your deciduous up here in the upper court here.
Yeah, sure. So you'll see, like, I have some of these big trees over here that give me some shade. This is one of my favorites. I actually got it from yours truly behind the camera, and I think originally it was from Ed's nursery.
It's a mother tree from Ed.
Okay, and it's a really fun variety of Japanese maple. And one of the things I like about it, it's a little bit funky. Like, not all the branches are necessarily was thought of as ideal. It has this kind of weird, funky branch here, and I'm just gonna embrace it and have fun with it, and see where it can go. And this last year, I started kind of doing some cutbacks on it and kind of refinement on some of the other areas. And it's a lot of fun working with Japanese maples. You can do so many different things to it. And one thing that I really liked about this one is it has really, really nice fall color. And the new leaves are also a totally different color than this kind of hardened off version of the deep green. But this basically kind of like turns on fire, like a really nice bright orange, and it has kind of a border around it too, like a red border around it, and it is really, really cool to see in the fall.
I'm jealous because I get the two seasons, you know, the green and the brown.
Yeah, so sometimes if I'm not careful, I'll get the brown as well, but because I don't have too many trees, as long as I'm intentional about, you know, where I'm placing it in my yard, I won't get the leaf burn that some others might get. And in the fall, maybe November, heck, even last year, fall color came in January of all years.
Really, really late.
So it was really weird. It was really late, but you know, each year is different that I've seen in my yard, and it's really cool whenever I get fall color to see that kind of orange, to see, you know, essentially what we see a lot of times on the East Coast, right?
Yeah.
It's really fun to see.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, no leaf burn, and it's like mid-July. I'm so jealous.
Yeah, exactly. And over here, I have some coral barks that I got from Ed. Some of these burned, unfortunately, a little bit, so I have to be careful about it. But nonetheless, these are really cool in the fall too, because the trunks are also kind of that orange color in the fall. So, you know, you'll see both the leaves and the trunk basically kind of like on fire. So I'm trying to develop out a forest on this, get a little bit more girth, and yeah, it should be pretty fun composition eventually.
That's kind of cool.
That comes into fruition. But yeah, this is kind of my back area. This is the summer period where everything gets under shade, a lot of shade, and so far so good. I generally don't get any leaf burn back there, and everything, you know, generally maintains to be fairly healthy.
Awesome. Do you have your first tree?
Do I have my first tree?
Or still have your first
question.
tree?
Yes, kind of. All right, let me show you. This is my first tree here. It's technically still alive. I tried to ground layer it several times. I was a little bit unsuccessful. At least now I know what I did wrong, so that if I try to do it in the future to another tree, it should work. But yeah, I repotted it, and it basically all died up top. I was pretty sad about that. But I kept watering it because I couldn't let go. Kept watering it, and next thing I know, a few months after, it started growing again. But it grew down here, right around...
Right where you air layered it.
Yeah, right where I tried to air layer it. And it grew a bunch of sprouts, as you can kind of see everywhere. But then the squirrels decided to partially defoliate it. But this is a survivor. Luckily, elms are really, really hardy, and they're really tough, and they'll basically take any abuse. And so, I don't know, maybe I'll lop it off here and make it a clump-style bonsai one of these days.
Mame, it'll be a Mame or Shohin. Peter would be jealous, you know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, right? Who would have known that there was actually a top to it, right? But yeah, this is my first tree. I'm really sentimental about it.
It's a Catlin elm?
It's a Catlin elm. I got it from Roy Nagatoshi. So in Ted's class, he gives you a resource sheet of all the different bonsai nurseries. So I took that. I was like, okay, I got to go to every single one and visit every single one. And so Roy's was the closest one nearby. And I went to his first. I was like, what's a tree that you can't kill very easily? And so Alex helped me out. He's like, oh, you get this elm, this Catlin elm. And so, yeah, I've had it ever since. It was doing just fine until this past year, but...
it's a good-looking tree. I mean, the tree's good. I mean, the structure's there. It is really good looking.
Yeah. They, you know, at Roy's, like, if you kind of look around, you know, fairly carefully, there's a lot of great material that they have. Alex and Roy and whoever else, you know, generally helps out with I don't know how many thousands of trees they have. They did really good job pruning this. At the time, it was like a 13-year-old tree.
Oh yeah, and they don't wire. Everything is clip and grow.
Yeah, which is great for deciduous. You could see all the really nice movement that they put in there by just year after year of growing it out.
If you had 1 or 2 tips for our viewers, what would it be?
Sure. Have fun, experiment, try different things. At least that's what I've done. Figure out what you like the most. I know people say, oh, typical thing is a juniper or a pine, but you don't have to necessarily just do that. There's a lot of different things, especially with deciduous trees. There's a lot of different kind of deciduous trees out there, and they all have their own nuance. So that's really good. Another thing is, learn when to take care of your trees, when to work on it, when to not work on it. I had stumbled upon Peter T's website, and he has a really good chart on his website that kind of helps, beginners like myself, like when to work on junipers, when not to work on junipers, when to fertilize, when not to fertilize, on all the different types of conifer, deciduous, elongating species. So, having those fundamentals and understanding when to work on things, you'll most likely be successful with them. So yeah, have fun with it.
Awesome. If you guys like the videos, like, subscribe, leave a comment for Jonathan. Maybe he needs another Sierra juniper to change around. But thanks a lot, Jonathan, for inviting us out today.
Cool. Thanks for coming, and get out now.